So I think a lot of small business owners overlook the liability risk. When you start a small business, many times your bank is going to ask you for proof of property coverage or some kind of coverage to cover your tangible assets. A lot of times businesses won't think about the other liabilities that they're going to incur because it's not required by a mortgagee or a lender. I think every small business should consider the basics: general liability, automobile liability, workers' compensation, employment practices, and umbrella coverage. But depending on your business, there are other exposures such as professional liability, which might be excluded under a general liability policy. That's covered by a separate errors and omissions policy, but also cyber liability. Any business that operates today probably stores customer data or collects payment information, collects some kind of personal information, and that's super important. General liability protects small businesses for third-party claims. That would be something along the lines of bodily injury coverage. So if a customer slips and falls and may become injured, it could cover medical bills, legal defense, and all of the things that may go along with that. It also can cover personal and advertising injury. So if somebody is claiming that an ad is infringement of rights or something along those lines, or is hurting somebody by your advertising, that will come in. General liability can also provide coverage for damage to someone else's property that you or your employees may cause. The other item that general liability can cover is legal defense. So if somebody says that something has happened but the claim is actually false, it can provide additional coverage for you and legal defense beyond that. One of the unique risks that service-based businesses should be aware of is errors and omissions, which is professional liability. That's typically excluded on a general liability policy and would be standalone coverage. Another unique risk that service-based businesses should be aware of is cyber liability. Cyber breaches and data breaches are becoming more and more prominent. That's typically a coverage that would also be excluded in a general liability or a standard business owner's policy. Businesses that operate primarily online have a bit different risk than a brick and mortar business. So we're seeing more and more cyber liability claims, websites going down, data breaches, your information being hacked by ransomware, things such as that. So definitely with an online or remote-based business, cyber liability coverage is super important. The other thing to consider, risk that comes along with remote employees. There's a much higher risk of employee equipment being stolen or lost, could be damaged. Employees are also using non-secure Wi-Fi, so you always have a higher risk of hackers being able to become involved as well. Some proactive steps that a small business can take to reduce their risk before something goes wrong would be to do a risk analysis of your business. It's a great opportunity to sit down with your agent, kind of figure out what do you need for coverage, what risks do you have, and how can you mitigate them prior to anything bad happening. Other steps that a small business can take would be to ensure that you have great contracts and use a contract every time you do a job with a client. Make sure that those contracts are reviewed by your attorney, that you're always utilizing them. From the employee side, a small business should take into consideration having an employee handbook and a workplace manual, making sure that all of those things are outlined. We should be ensuring our employees are trained and trained frequently, and that they all understand the business and the risks that go along with it. The most common insurance claims that we see from small businesses typically relate to bodily injury claims. So that would be somebody maybe slipping, falling on your premise, inside your store, or outside on snow and ice. We also see employee-related claims, So employees injured at work. The last claim we see most frequently for small businesses would be property damage claims, whether that be claims to your automobiles or claims to your actual store, loss of stock or common goods, things like that. Small businesses should always start by having meaningful conversations with their agent. I think at the very beginning of your business as a startup, it's a great idea to make sure that your agent gets to know you, your business, your industry, and your operations. And depending on how quickly your business grows, it's a great idea to always have a conversation at least annually with your agent. But for a business that is quickly growing and changing, I would recommend at least quarterly.